Welcome to the newest edition of the Huddle House. And this was a fun week for me. Got win number two. And there's one guy that's going to be on the show tonight that's probably not going to want to talk to me. So, Ty, how you feeling, brother?
I'm just ready to move on and focus on another week. Obviously, disappointing performance. Aaron Rodgers positive for COVID. Mr. Immunized sets the whole world on fire. Everybody hates him now. Some people love him. Um, and we just got thumped by you, Matt. So you picked a good week to have your best performance of the season. Although you probably could have used it another week. I don't even know. Actually, I take that back.
Second best seed, second
You,
best week.
you could have beat me with anything this week. Honestly, I only put
Yeah.
one. So maybe you should have saved that for another week. But anyway, I'm sure it felt good watching Jonathan Taylor. I knew Thursday night that it was probably over, and it was demoralizing watching him. That
Yeah.
78-yarder was really what did it for me. That one was just like,
I went crazy when that happened, but yeah, it was a fun week. Sorry for what happened, Ty, but you'll bounce back. But I want to get to the guest on the show this week. Another man that's had a pretty rough week. So,
Horrible.
Jeremy McCleary, how's it
You
going,
know,
man?
I'm hanging in there. Got through the massacre that was this weekend, but yeah, just like my team's done the whole year, we're looking to bounce back next week. Go from scoring 50 to 150. That's what we do.
it is amazing the range your team has. It's boom or bust to the.
Oh yeah, I'm either the best team in the league or I'm dead last.
It's interesting because you've always had such a powerhouse team almost every year I've played in this league. And this year, like, your team has those weeks where it hits that pinnacle where I'm like, man, Jeremy's team is one of the best, like crazy good. And then the next week it just does absolutely nothing. So it's just
I'm convinced my team loves to play with my feelings.
hard to get a read on it.
Yeah. Well, what are we doing today, Matt? You had a fun idea. Why don't you break it down for the people?
Yeah, so I was thinking about when Jeremy got on for this week, he texted me and was like, "Hey, what are we gonna, anything specific I need to know about?" And I was like, that's actually a good idea. Like, we've been pretty much talking trades and doing like the same just general vibe every single week, and that gets worked for us. But there weren't really any major trades this week, unless we want to spend 45 minutes talking about the third round pick swap that happened today.
Big trade.
There hasn't been anything too beefy really all that much. So we wanted to do something a little different. So welcome to the mid-season player superlatives is what we're going to go with today. We got several different types of categories of just like season superlatives, and we're all going to go through and we're going to share the player that we think fits that bill the most.
Let's do it.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, so we are going to start with what I would like to call the most likely to succeed superlative. You see this in every yearbook. What we're really going for with this category is a player that is already doing like solid, like not a bad player, but someone that we think is going to hit that next tier and become like a really great player. So someone that's already solid, but not at their pinnacle. And we think that they're going to just get better and take that leap. So preferably young players. So me and Ty kind of know each other's picks for the most part, but Jeremy wanted to keep his secret. So we're going to start with you, Jeremy. Who are you going to go with?
I'll go ahead and start, and I'll start with what I've been saying the entire year. What I drafted in the fifth round, a future star, Michael Carter. Michael Carter Jr. is just now starting to show a lot, showing a lot of pass catching, which he didn't really get this last week, but he exploded for 27 2 weeks ago. And I mean, he's got nothing around him in that offense, really. They're pretty bad. And he's still a usable fantasy player. I think once stuff comes together for the Jets, he's going to be a stud.
Totally agree.
Yeah, he really has hit a new tier the past couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is it's come without Zach Wilson. It's been all their backup quarterback.
Exactly.
Down. I don't know how that's going to change when Zach eventually comes back, but it is very interesting to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I think what makes him so useful right now is he's, just like you said, the pass catching volume. Like, he's almost being used in a way kind of like as a specialist. Like, he'll get like 10 carries maybe, but he's not getting like bell cow type carries. He's just getting a ton of targets because the Jets without Zach Wilson have been kind of checking it down. And when Zach Wilson was the quarterback, like, he just doesn't have that ability yet. He's wanting to gunsling and just go deep on everything. So if they can if he can learn from the GOAT Mike White on how to just kind of like take what the defense gives you, like Michael Carter's in a great position because there's no one to take those targets away.
Exactly. And you blink twice and you don't realize Michael Carter's the number 20 running back right now. Like, he's top 20. And
I did not actually know that.
He'll do to blow up. I mean, yeah, he's been great. And I think one thing I've noticed just watching him is like I don't know if he has like a great bag of moves like some runners do, but he just finds yards, it seems like. And that's sometimes overlooked. It's just the ability to find yards. Like, you don't have to be able to make all these people miss if you can just fall forward and find yards. And he seems to do that well. So
yeah,
I see nothing but green grass ahead of him for sure.
Oh yeah. That's enough on my underwhelming team. What do you guys got for us here?
All right, well, I'm going to do something really, really, really rare, and it's going to happen once in a blue moon, but I'm going to actually compliment a Jake player. And for my pick, I'm going to go with Javonte Williams, another rookie, but he has absolutely impressed me. I mean, there's the reason I traded Melvin so early is I saw in the first couple weeks, I was like, this kid's got the stuff. Like, they were splitting carries, but Javonte just looked quicker. He looked shiftier on his carries. I mean, Melvin was still producing, but I was like, this is only a matter of time before this kid's going to explode. So, I mean, I'm looking at his fantasy numbers. Like, he's not putting up anything crazy. I mean, I think his highest week is like 14. So he hasn't had like a complete explode week, but he's been pretty consistent. He's getting around 8 to 10 almost every single week, and he's doing that with split carries. I think in the future, once Melvin starts to kind of phase out, it's going to become his backfield. He actually, like, I think I saw a stat that he's like top 2 or 3, maybe even number 1 this season in like broken tackles. Like, so he's just getting extra yards, churning out extra yards. Like last game was a real sign. He didn't get in the end zone, but he had 17 carries for 111 yards. He was averaging like 6.5 yards a carry against Dallas, who obviously threw a stinker, but they've been a pretty decent, defensive front this season. So I think Javonte Williams is poised for a really great career for Jake. And I know it's probably one player that Jake's wanting to cling to because he's young and he's already producing. So he's impressed me.
Yeah, he's definitely the guy that's going to become the workhorse there. And I mean, if Melvin's out of there in a year, then he's got nothing to hold him back.
By all accounts, will be. Like, they're not tied to
him. So. Yeah.
And plus, who knows what their quarterback situation might be? They could end up with like Aaron Rodgers next year, and that just benefits him even more. That the tide rises all ships, and everybody do better wherever he goes, but especially there because Denver's pretty loaded.
Next Peyton Manning going to Denver.
Yeah.
All right, Todd, what you got?
So I sent over a certain somebody of mine. I'm actually going to change that now, and I'm sorry if this is anybody you have for anything, Jeremy, but I think this player more fits the bill for this description than who I had. So I'm going to go with Pat Freiermuth, tight end for the Steelers, the rookie.
I did not have him, but I love the pick.
I don't like him, obviously, as a Steeler, but I think he definitely is destined to succeed. And it's not just because he caught 2 touchdowns and had a great game yesterday or last night, although that goes into it, but it's just his increased snap count and target share. Like, over the last 3 weeks they've played, he's gone up to 7 targets pretty much every game. And he's been catching pretty much all of them. And I think that Pittsburgh kind of has a history of solid tight end play, and he definitely strikes me as a guy who can be the next Heath Miller or better than Jesse James, but like of a similar ilk, like just to catch a lot of touchdown passes and kind of be a security blanket. And I think it's especially important in Dynasty because that's a very hard position to find premium talent at. And most of the talent you can find is on the aging side where they might be more towards the end of their career. So to get somebody like this who seems like he already is kind of peaking as a rookie tight end, usually you don't see that in fantasy tight ends, having a good rookie season. And he's having that this year. So that definitely seems like he's going to be a good long-term play. And obviously, I don't know if he's Kyle Pitts. Like, that seems like kind of a runaway favorite for best tight end in Dynasty. But I think he's definitely destined to succeed, and he'll do well just in that offense and in that scheme. So that's my pick, Pat Freiermuth.
It's a good pick. I saw a lot out of him yesterday. So I think it's a wasteland of a position, and I think he could potentially be one of the upper echelon ones.
You got Pittsburgh fans already chanting Muth after every catch.
I know it sounds a lot like
the Heath chants that haunted Ty for years. They're going to return.
Yeah.
All right, so the next category we got is biggest surprise. So this is going to come to a guy that, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. A guy that we didn't think would really break out to the extent that they have, that has sort of taken the fantasy world by surprise this year and turned some heads. So Jeremy, lead us off on this one too.
So for this one, I didn't necessarily go with the guy who I thought surprised the most in a positive way. I went with the guy who I was just surprised with their workload, and that was Trey Sermon. It's a guy who was taken in the 3rd round of our draft, and obviously he's a rookie and he's not expected to be the star that you hope he is one day. But he's lost his position in the backfield where Raheem Mostert went down and it was wide open. And now, to my benefit, he's lost it to a 6th-round pick. And that's really surprised me. And I know long term, he's still probably a viable option. But I mean, it's been really surprising seeing the way the 49ers have treated their injured backfield so far.
Yeah, I think that's just Kyle Shanahan. Like,
been the same.
Yeah.
Just the Shanahan way. Like, none of those guys are ever going to have the backfield all to themselves because Mostert's always going to be around. Jeff Wilson's always going to be around. Michael Hastings.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like whoever the hot hand is right now. And I think Elijah Mitchell, but to that being said, Elijah Mitchell certainly looks the part. Every time he touches the ball, he's dynamic, explosive. I don't know how Trey Sermon can catch up to him unless Shanahan just has a change of heart at some point and wants to play him more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the 49ers just in general this season have been like all sorts of surprises. Like we could probably name like 5 49ers players that could be on this list right now. Because with what you just said about Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell can also be in the biggest surprise category. And, you know, it's just flip-flops. So one was bad, one was good. But they've been unpredictable.
Debo Samuel can be a surprise. It's based on the freaking insane year he's
Yeah.
Or Ayuk for how bad he's been. Like it's their team is strange.
Coming into a season where they weren't sure what they were going to get out of Trey Lance, Debo's having the best year of his career.
And I think even Jimmy, like everybody's like thinking Jimmy was going to suck. He's been solid this year. And I know they got waxed by like Colt McCoy last week, but still, Jimmy's not been all that bad.
Yeah, his looks serviceable at least. I don't think he's the problem really. The defense has been doing bad, and I don't know. They've just had some bad games, but I don't know what's going on with the 49ers. I think Shanahan deserves a lot of blame though. But for mine, I had to get one Ravens player in on here just because I've been very impressed with him, and that's Hollywood Brown. I thought I had him last year in fantasy, and I traded him away after about week 8, and I was like, the Hollywood Brown experience is over. Like, I mean, I wasn't giving up on him as a total career, but just from a fantasy perspective, I thought he was always just going to be like so boomer bust. Like, he might have a good week here and there, get people to buy into him, but you can never trust him. But he's shifted that narrative this year. I mean, Lamar's throwing the ball a lot more, and he has really developed a strong connection with Hollywood Brown. Like, the deep balls have been there, but we're also using them in like kind of like screens and short route type scenarios too, and letting them kind of get out in space and use his speed. And he is right now wide receiver 6 for the season. I mean, he has 69 yards, 113 yards, 53 yards, 91 yards, 125 yards, 80 yards, 116 yards, all games this season. And he already has 6 touchdowns. So in 9 weeks. So I mean, he's been so good. Like, he's catching all sorts of passes. He had a few horrible drops in the Lions game that he deserved a lot of blame for. That would have been like 2 touchdowns in a 150-yard game. But so he's had his mistakes where you still see that there's room for growth, but he's gotten to be more reliable as the season's gone on. And I do love the connection that they're starting to form. And I think I'm not going to say he's a dynasty wide receiver 1. Like, there's other guys I like more, but I definitely think he's proving he's a really, really, really strong wide receiver 2 for the time being.
And he was traded for Juju. Was that the trade that happened earlier? I mean,
yeah, Carter got wrecked. I mean, that was tough.
Oh man, that one would hurt.
I actually liked Juju better in that trade. But I mean, I've been way off on that one, and now Juju's out for the year. So, and who knows what team will be on next year. So,
yeah.
What you got, Ty?
I guess I'm up now. Yeah, my pick for a biggest surprise is Cordell Patterson. I think this is a pretty easy one because, I mean, dude's been around in the league since 2013. And for him to just explode like he has, right now he's the number 7 running back on the year. And he's got like running back wide receiver eligibility, so he can kind of play anywhere. But he's catching like 5 or 6 balls a game. So that's easy yards right there. Not to mention the work he's getting on the ground. He's got so many ways to score in that offense, and it's kind of one that's pretty devoid of playmakers outside of Kyle Pitts right now. So I mean,
Yeah.
He's getting a lot of the touchdown opportunities are going to him, and it's not like he's even playing that many snaps. He's just incredibly efficient when he's on the field. So it's kind of everybody's like, oh, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. But here we are 9 weeks into the season, and it's been sustainable. He's only had 1 week where he's been under double-digit fantasy points. So for a guy at age 30 to have a breakout like this, it seems kind of unprecedented and just very, very surprising and out of the blue because everybody was looking like somebody's got to take over this backfield. It's going to be Mike Davis.
Right.
It's going to be the undrafted guy out of Louisville they had, Hawkins or whatever his name was. Who's it going to be? And then it's like Cordell Patterson, who was there the whole time and nobody talked about, ended up being the one who just has taken it over. So I've been kind of blown away by that one, just the dependent force he's been for Jordan.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
been a crazy story. I mean, I remember he went for 3 touchdowns, had his complete blow up game against me, and I was fuming like,
Oh yeah,
this
you
guy's
won't
not
let
that
anybody
good. But
You won't let anybody
I
forget
feel a little. Wait, what?
said you won't let anybody forget about that, so we all remember it too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know you do, but I'm just saying, like, I was so mad, but like as time has gone on and he's been going off against everybody, I feel a little bit better about it because it didn't feel like such a fluke. Like when it happened, it felt like a fluke. I was like, Cordero's not that good. This was just a weird outlier. And granted, he hasn't had a game like that, but he has been so consistent. And he's like a running back, but he's mostly just a wide receiver that sometimes gets carries. And Mike Davis has been underwhelming. And yeah, with Calvin Ridley being out, past several weeks and having a really rocky season, like Cordero stepped up and just been the guy. And yeah, you don't see 30-year-olds do that very often.
Russell Gage was the one who was expected to step up and start getting more pass catches, and he's done nothing this year.
He's been
It's just been the running backs.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to our next category here. We got stone hands. Who's had the worst hands all season?
Now, before you call on me to start this one, Matt, I would like you to go first, so that I don't have to say it.
I know. I knew when I picked it that I stole yours, and you had to pick.
You're fine. I'm glad I don't have to address him.
I'm gonna go with Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, there he is.
He has been so bad, and I mean, I feel bad for Jeremy because when Jeremy made the trade for him, I thought it was a really solid move. And I mean, granted, what'd you trade away? I don't think it was anything all that.
Kenny Galladay and a third-round pick.
Yeah,
so I traded a guy who got injured, and I got Ramondre out of it, who had a good game last week.
Yeah, it wasn't like a crazy loss or anything, but ever since you traded for him, he has been horrible. Like he got 0.7 this week. And his thing is his targets have been decent most of the week. So he has 6 targets one game, 11 another game, 7 another game, 11 another game, and 9 another game. And in those 5 games, he has 3 catches, 5 catches, 2 catches, 3 catches, and 3 catches. I mean, he's getting like 20 to 30% of his targets caught, and the other 70% are out hitting the turf. Like, it's atrocious. Like, I mean, you have to blame Darnold for some of it. Like, he's not getting that many great balls thrown his way, but the ones that are catchable, he is just not bringing in. And this was not the Robbie Anderson we saw last year. Like, he was very solid. And I don't know what happened. It's like he just fell off a cliff, but he has been horrible.
I'll tell you what happened. It's Sam Darnold. He's the same.
Yeah.
And he can't distribute the ball like Teddy Bridgewater could last year. I think it's that simple. I really think that's what it boils down to. He's just not a good quarterback. And
He's garbage.
He's absolute garbage. So
he is what we thought he was.
Yeah.
Very no good.
Embodiment of that phrase. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. That's who you're beefs with, Jeremy. Not Robbie. Robbie's still a solid player. But that's also the weird thing is that these two were together in New York. And they were even better there than
they were good.
Yeah, they were better. So I don't know what the problem was really, but I do think Sam Darnold's the root of it.
Yeah, but still hurts.
Yeah.
Watching my guy lead the league in drop passes, and half of them he can't even catch.
No.
Well, who do you want to go next? Should I go?
I think you can go this time, Ty.
Yeah, okay. So mine for this was Julio Jones. And I think it's more so just because of the name and pedigree. Like Julio Jones, he's like one of the best receivers of our generation. You expect him to be a dominant force, and he went to Tennessee, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is going to be a great move." It's He's going to do so much better with Tannehill. And here he sits the number 68 wide receiver on the season. It's been nothing but utter disappointment. And I mean, he's been banged up a little bit, which is kind of the Julio Jones way, which might factor into it a little bit. He's just not on the field. But even when he has been, it hasn't been the production that you come to expect of him. And I know he's aged 32, but like he should be drawing number 2 wide receiver, number 2 cornerback, because AJ Brown's there. He's going to be getting the star of every defense they play. So it's kind of like, how's he not getting more volume? How's he not winning more? How is this still just kind of a mediocre guy who you're playing because you have to, not because you want to? I mean, I'm looking at his numbers here. His best week's 15.8 in week 2, which is a solid week, but he hasn't found the end zone yet, and he's pretty much around like 30 to 50 receiving yards every game. So for somebody who was picked in the 4th round, that's where Chris drafted him. I mean, that's killing. That's a killer. That's a killer to invest that in a guy and then not get anything out of it. I mean, he had such higher hopes for the season, and it's been really nothing but disappointment. So maybe not much in the stone hands in terms of dropping balls, but just in not catching them or not really doing anything. I think disappointing wide receiver, Julio Jones.
It's a good call.
What about
you? Sure. And AJ Brown wasn't too great until the last couple weeks.
That's right.
So the passing offense for the Titans has just struggled most of the year until the last few weeks. And
well, it'll be interesting to see what changes with Derrick Henry out. But I mean, it was like that last week, and Julio still didn't really do that much.
Right. Yeah.
What about you, Barnes? Stone hands. Or
I already said mine.
Barnes already got stone hands for me over there, but
we're waiting on you, Jeremy.
Matt sent me into a little bit of a scramble by stealing my guy, but I looked into it a little bit, and this is one that came to a surprise for me. Keenan Allen is 2nd in the league for dropped balls this year. Not tied for 2nd. He is the only player in 2nd. So, like, for a guy who you think of as a guy who's just consistent, he has hands that don't drop, doesn't mess up really, and he's got a great quarterback with him, and I just think that's something that's unacceptable for a guy really like him to be 2nd in the league and drop passes, being a star in an offense that's so good. I just thought that was surprising and something that was worth throwing out there.
Yeah,
I actually didn't know that. That's very surprising.
He's still productive fantasy wise,
right?
He's been solid, but that is an interesting thing to note.
Yeah, like he's still a good player, and he's still, I think, 18th wide receiver, something like that. But he's just dropping some of the passes that we've come to expect him to catch. He could be even having a better year.
For sure. All right, well, we're moving on. We're probably going to move through the next ones a little bit quicker, but we got the Monumental Failure Award. So this is kind of, I mean, it's probably sort of similar to Stones for Hands, but just a guy that's just not producing at all that should be. And I guess I'll lead off on this one, but I got to go with Brandon Ayuk. He did a little bit this week to kind of get back on the right track, finally looked like his last year's self, finally. But I mean, this is a guy that's had some absolutely unacceptable performances, like gotten like 0.7 a couple weeks where he'd get like 1 or 2 targets. I mean, you have guys like Trent Sherfield getting catches over him. I mean, there were several weeks where Kittle wasn't even there, and you think, oh, now it's going to be Ayuk and Debo the whole time. But like, nope, it'd just be like 90% Debo, and Ayuk would get like 3 targets. And so it was just like for the entire season, except for 1 week, it has just been nothing from Ayuk. Like, you can't even start him. Like, and gosh, there's probably people in 8-team leagues that are like obviously not as deep leagues that would probably just be cutting the guy. Like he's just been so bad. Like, but he finally looked sort of like himself this week. So we'll see if he can turn the corner for the second half. But we're going mid-season superlatives. I can't judge it all in 1 week. Oh, so far he's been horrible. So
nothing.
Got to go with him.
That one.
Yeah, can't argue that one.
I got Calvin Ridley for mine, biggest fail, and. Well, it's surprising to say this because as I look at the numbers, he's the 52 wide receiver. So despite his current situation, he's still been more productive than Julio Jones this whole year. But for a guy who was picked in the 2nd round to be in the current state he's in now, where he's stepped away from football, we don't really know how long he's going to be out, what's going to be the situation. For somebody you draft to be your number 1, to have this kind of lingering over your head and uncertainty for the whole season, I think that's kind of a failure just in fantasy football sense. It's a bummer that it worked out. Nothing you could foresee, but this was the year he was supposed to. He's the sole number one. He's the top option. There's no Julio Jones. Like if you thought he was good with Julio, he's going to be even better now. And he got a lot of target share early in the season, but ultimately, whatever he's been working through, he had some injuries, and now he stepped away. It's just you're missing out on a lot of games from somebody you picked second overall, and it's kind of irreplaceable. So I think that just is a dooming thing for a season, and that's why I'd say big failure here.
And he's a guy that I was really high on going into the year and had considered taking if my pick would have been a few picks later. Like he was a guy I was a lot higher on than a lot of other wide receivers in that range. So I'm glad that I didn't have to come down to that decision. But yeah, he's been disappointing for sure.
Yeah. And nothing saying he won't come back and be great, but it's just in this moment, it's kind of a fail with what's happened to him.
For sure.
What about you, Jerm?
My monumental failure boils down to a draft pick that was made. And I'm going to attack Matt real quick. Matthew Barnes selected Michael Thomas, the pick before Michael Pittman, which the much lesser of the Michaels and much older of the Michaels. I just thought that was something to throw out there. You swung on the wrong Michael there, and that was a monumental failure there.
It's Jeremy. I lost sleep about it already, man. It's not pleasant. I mean, I love Pittman's talent, but I mean, it's just like, man, on draft night, I was like, man, I already have Taylor. I should never do this. I should never not want to double down on offenses unless it's like an atrocious offense. Like it shouldn't have been an issue, but I was like, already having Taylor. I was like, do I want to have, the running game already colliding with the number one receiver where I'm kind of torn on which unit I'm rooting for to succeed. And I don't know. I just like the upside with Thomas just being hopefully healthy again. But we'll get back to Thomas.
That's not to say he can't.
But he's been so weird. Like, I don't know what to make of him. I mean, obviously this season he's useless, but we'll see what he ends up being. But I definitely missed out on Pittman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes you miss, though. I mean, it happens. A bunch of 13 guys in the league missed on Jamar Chase.
Yeah, and Pittman's looked like a stud the last few weeks. So
since I traded him.
Yeah.
Such a
we'll throw Ty's name in that monumental failure there too.
Hey, I won't rule that now. I got Devontae Adams. Michael Thomas. Come on now.
Who's been better? What'd that get you?
Adams
has been better than Thomas. At least Adams is getting some.
Got me a couple losses so far, but believe in the long game. The long game.
All right, we'll see.
All right. Well, I think this is a perfect tie into my next superlative, the biggest heartache award, which ding, 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 also Michael Thomas.
Nice.
This is just a player that I don't know what to do with. Like, it's like I can't really trade him because right now he has no value, so I just have to hold. Hope he leaves the Saints, goes to pair up with a good quarterback, and maybe can be himself for at least a year or two, and then I can maybe sell him to a contender if I'm not contending. I don't know. I don't know what to do with the guy, but he is frustrating as I'll get out. I just don't see it. To me, it's like it feels almost like he just doesn't want to play because he put out a nice, cute statement that day. The news broke. They made it seem like he'd been fighting really hard to get back on the field, and it just read off as a lot of BS to me. I was like, I feel like if he wanted to get back on the field, he wouldn't have waited all the way to the offseason in January to have surgery. Like he would have jumped on this earlier. He would have been good to go a long time ago. There's no reason to be missing almost 2 years for an ankle injury. So it's just frustrating. It just doesn't seem like he wants to play football right now. Hopefully he reignites his love for the game and gets back out there sooner than later. But he drives me insane.
Yeah, for a guy who was the up-and-coming star of the league, but 3 years ago.
Was the top player, like in all of fantasy that 1 year.
I can imagine starting a dynasty league several years ago and just being like, you got the star.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas. And then now he's just irrelevant.
I'm sure many people did, and that'd be brutal.
Yeah.
For mine,
all right, guys.
I got Antonio Gibson for mine. And Marcus's first and I know he's going to enjoy listening to this. It's been nothing but heartbreak for him, honestly, because the whole talk all leading into the season was he's going to be the 3-down back. It's going to be his backfield. He's going to get all kinds of work. And J.D. McKissick is still very present in the 2-minute drill and on third downs. He's in there all the time. And also, Gibson's been battling injuries to where you don't really know what the extent of it is. Like, one week they say he has shin splints, and then another week he's scoring 2 touchdowns. But then the last 3 weeks he's been playing under 50% of the snaps. I think a lot of it boils down to just poor QB play and Taylor Heineke. And I don't know if Fitzpatrick's even going to be that much better, but it feels like he took a step backwards from last year, which was the last thing I expected. And he's still 23, he's still very young, and a lot of time to develop, but definitely heartache for a first-round pick.
And I remember reports coming out preseason where they were saying they wanted to use him like the next Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
Where is that?
That's what I'm saying.
Where is that? He's nowhere near Christian McCaffrey.
All right.
Well, at least he's on the field this season, so for the most part.
I guess I can throw my guy out now, who is not on the field, Miles Sanders.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Struggles the whole year, doesn't ever get any carries, taps out at the most carries at like 10, and the week he goes down, the very next week, they're scrambling for replacements, and then throwing carries at everybody in that backfield, which it's like, man.
Boston Scott got me 18. I'm like, that's more than Miles Sanders will put up in back-to-back weeks combined. Like, it's weird.
Miles Sanders is a solid 7 points just off of talent alone, and that's it.
Yeah, he's all talent, no scheme. They don't help him out at all.
Nothing.
Crazy.
All right, guys, I hate to rush these next couple categories. We're sitting at 7.5 minutes here. So these next 3, we're just going to kind of say a few words and then move on. But this next category, we got the king of the rookies. I knew one of you other guys would pick Jamar Chase, so I figured I'd let you guys have him. I'm going to roll with Najee Harris. Obviously, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go Chase, but Najee's right there with him, like 1A right there on that list. Like, Najee's been so effective with a horrible line, hasn't shown many he's been hindered a little bit by it, obviously, but he's turning out 3-4 yard carries on things that should have been losses. So he's proven that he's a true bell cow and definitely a top fantasy asset. So I've been impressed.
Yeah, my guy was Najee as well, and I think it's just most impressive is that he's doing it with the youngest offensive line in the NFL, and with no great quarterback play. Big Ben's not going to extend a play. He's not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. He's going to try to manage the game, and if he does that, the Steelers can win. And if he doesn't, then we lose every game. But yeah, Najee's just been a star, and he doesn't have much around him, and he's still being great.
Yeah, he's having a great season. Mine's Jamar Chase. As the resident Bengals fan, I feel like that's an easy pick. Number 3 wide receiver on the whole fantasy season. He's getting like 10 targets a game. Just an absolute superstar. So don't think there's much more to be said for that one. We can move on.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's helping Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
Joe Burrow's the truth.
He might be dynasty wide receiver 1 right now as far as just for the future. Like, he's a true alpha. I mean, I freaking love the guy. And I don't blame Brandon for not trading him for anything. I know some guys have thrown the house at him, and he ain't budging, and I don't blame him. So,
yeah.
All right, so the next one we're going to go with the hospital's favorite player award. This is going to go to a guy that's in the hospital the most, who's the most injured. So, Jeremy, you can lead this one off.
I'll lead this one off with my if we've had dynasty in the past, this would be the guy that I get every year. T.Y. Hilton. He's been on my team since I was 10 years old. Never played a full season for me, but somehow I just keep coming back. But here I am again with T.Y. Hilton, and he's back injured, and I don't expect him to come back and play for more than 3 games at a time.
The funny thing about T.Y. is he comes back
for him
against the Texans and goes nuts like he does every year, and then he just gets hurt again.
Yep.
Like, man, come on. Like,
he has these games just to reel me back in, and I'll hold on to him for that.
Well, Ty, I think you got another guy Jeremy's in love with most years.
I was about to say, you must just be attracted to pain because you're always a Kenny Golladay guy.
I'm a sucker.
That's my pick for this one.
I've actually only had Kenny twice.
Okay, well, I guess last year and then
yeah.
Lastly, but yeah, I mean, he's been so disappointing because it's like, really, I think you can put a lot of people from the New York Giants on this list. I'm just going with Kenny because he was the big ticket free agent signing. Everybody's going to be like, this is what's going to change the team. He's going to be dynamic. And it's the same storyline as kind of been. He just can't stay on the field. And I think it's to the point where John Ross has had a bigger impact on the Giants than Kenny Galladay has. Which, like, if somebody would have told me that at the start of the season, I would have said, you're crazy. And it's not at all.
He's horrible.
Yeah.
John Ross and
that's-
Dante Pettis are making more of a mark. That's when you know it's not pleasant.
And Kenny Galladay, man, always banged up. And it's the same story this year.
Kadarius Toney's been allowed to show some stuff, too, because of it, though.
Which has been beneficial, but even he gets kind of hurt. And then Sterling, obviously, he's hurt all the time too. Like the Giants just have an injury bug, man, and I think that might even be adding on to that with his for this one.
Yeah, so I'm going with another Giant, man. This is a hospital team, but I feel bad for this guy. I got to go with Saquon Barkley. I feel really bad for him. I mean, he had back-to-back season-ending injuries the last 2 years, and Lucas wanted me to take him number 3. He's like, he's the third best dynasty player, and I don't regret it so far. I mean, these man just can't stay on the field. Like, when he plays, he's so good. And I understand this last injury was not like a Saquon unhealthy type thing. It was just a pure freak accident. But, I mean, it just seems like he always has those freak accidents happen to him. Like, he just can't seem to catch a break. And I feel bad for him, but the man's just not reliable for fantasy because he's always hurt. So, like, I just don't know how to feel about Saquon. When he plays, top, RB1 potential every week, but you just can't trust him.
Yeah, it's rough.
So this last one, we got 3 minutes, so we got about a minute apiece. This is the last superlative I wrote down. This is the bust potential award. So this goes to a person that also like a rookie or sophomore that is decent right now, but we think could be, it's like the opposite of most likely to succeed. Someone that we think could get worse, has some red flags, and could be a bust. And I'll lead off with something Ty doesn't want to hear because I know he just acquired this guy, but I think there's signs of bust potential with Rondale Moore. He's had a few amazing weeks that have showed flashes of greatness, but it's just never a great sign whenever D-Hop misses the game and you have, Edmonds out mid-game and you have Kirk as the wide receiver 1. You think, okay, this could be a Rondale breakout, and he literally just does nothing for like 2 weeks in a row. And I just think that's not really a good sign when, he's not capitalizing on the good game scripts coming his way. I think he's got great talent and he will have some boom weeks, but I just don't know if you can trust him.
Yeah, I think it kind of sucked for him last week because James Conner did all that, and the Cardinals killed him so early that it was kind of just like running out the clock the whole second half, and it was the James Conner show. So, I mean, I don't hold it against him too much. I was disappointed and wanted to see more. I know it's kind of crowded there, so I don't think it's a bad take at all, Matt.
Yeah. Who you got, Ty?
I'm going with Laviska Shenault for mine. And mostly I think it comes down to competition for targets as well there. I know a lot of people expected him to take a big leap. Trevor Lawrence, they got a lot more, should have more explosiveness there, and they just really haven't. I think he's been, especially with DJ Chark being out, people were looking for him to take a step up and maybe do more. He really hasn't been utilized like that and hasn't shown that. It's been more Jamal Agnew and Marvin Jones, and even Dan Arnold, the new tight end. So I think it's weird that he's not getting that kind of work, and I think it's kind of a troublesome pattern to where will that chemistry develop? I'm not sure, and it could end up being a bust. That's what I'm going to say.
It's very possible. I had my concerns mid-season, so no depth of target kills them. All right, Jeremy, we're down to the minute mark. So
Gotcha. I had Zach Wilson, guy who had a great preseason. Was expected to be pretty good coming into this year and has struggled tremendously early and then got injured. And now, they just won a game without him 2 weeks ago. And, he's just struggled a lot. And I expected him to be a little bit better early on. And I don't think it really bodes well for him that his number one target, Corey Davis, is getting injured all the time too. So it's just a rough road for him. But, yeah.
Agreed. I'm worried about him.
Definitely some concerns, but all right, guys, good show. Definitely glad we did something different. Jeremy, thanks for coming on. We'll have you on again sometime. This was a good one, boys. Hope the guys like it.
All right. See ya.
See you guys.